So I've never really done anything like this before. I kind of just wanted to recap what has happened kind of in the last 24 hours. It was just a lot to write down. So I felt like if I just recorded a video, that would just be so much easier than trying to write this all down. So I'm going to try kind of start from the beginning. This is regarding my son, Grayson. You can kind of see him in the background over there. So he is 8 years old now. He goes to Roosevelt Elementary in Tampa. And he was diagnosed with autism around the age of 3. And he's so, over the course of his life, he's had a lot of different therapies and wonderful, amazing people in his life. He started ABA therapy at the age of 3. And it immediately did wonders for him. I can't speak highly enough about ABA. And so he has had that, like I said, since about the age of 3. He went to preschool at the age of 4. He repeated that. We held him back, and so he did repeat that for 2 years. And we had his ABA therapist with him all through preschool from when he was 4 years old. And the second time we kept the same therapist with him. And I don't really want to say names, so I'll say therapist, and her name was Miss M. And just the most amazing, phenomenal person. And like I said, who's kind of been there from the beginning for him. And again, like special needs and being on the spectrum, that consistency is huge for him. And so we've had this ABA therapist with us through preschool, and then obviously going into elementary school is a huge step and a huge adjustment, kind of coming from this tiny little private school with just one hallway to this huge campus of almost 800 kids. As a special needs mom, that was really a scary time, for him entering in kindergarten. And the first step was to meet with the principal at the time, and see what she was basically going to allow for Grayson, and how much services and how much support he was going to really get. Because obviously at that point, he really did need a lot. And so I was very nervous, and I went to go meet a principal that I had never met before in a school that I really have not spent a lot of time in, to go kind of advocate for my son. And so I went into that office not knowing what was going to happen. And I met the most wonderful, warm, kind human being who just literally had just met me, doesn't know me at all, didn't know my son, hadn't seen a picture of him, nothing. And she welcomed me with open arms. She actually broke down in tears, just talking about our special needs kids. And she said that they were the reason she did her job, that they were like her heartbeat, the heartbeat of the school. And she shared that with me, and she said she would absolutely allow ABA therapy into the school because that was what was best for my son, and that was what's going to help him. So she absolutely allowed that. So going into kindergarten, we had ABA with him full time, 5 days a week in the classroom, providing one-on-one support, which he did desperately need. So we had that through kindergarten with a wonderful teacher. And then we went on to first grade with, of course, another phenomenal teacher. It's a wonderful school, neighborhood school. And we're just really fortunate. So, in first grade, he was 5 days a week with his one-on-one. And we, as a group, we came together, at that time to make the decision that we should, maybe kind of set him free a little bit and give him some independence and kind of gauge where he would be, alone if we just give him some space. So we decided to kind of pull back on the second ABA therapist that we had. And so we went from 5 days to 3 days. And it was a challenge, but he's great. So he doesn't have any behavior issues. He's a super sweet kid. So we did find out that the days that the therapist was not there, Of course, he listens, he follows instructions as far as the teacher, he's not being disruptive. He's a really good, sweet kid. But as far as academics go, of course, not staying on task, not finishing work, not really getting much out of the day academically. I have very different goals for him. Obviously, for me as a parent, my goals look a little bit different than school goals. Um, but for me, like his overall mental health, his well-being, his happiness, his social circle, his friends, all those things that you kind of worry about as a special needs mom for sure. If he's going to have any friends. And so it turns out that he has had the most amazing group of friends who have rallied around him, the same group of kids through kindergarten and then first and then second. And of course, their parents are just as amazing and have basically become little mini ABA therapists who sit next to him and help him every step of the way. It's been incredible to watch other kids just try to help and be loving and open, accepting, inclusive. It's just been an absolute dream. I worried about a lot of things that I didn't have to worry about, fortunately. And so in first grade, we decided to pull back. Second grade, we've kept it the same. Second grade has really been a phenomenal year for him. He has, again, the most incredible teacher, definitely a bond that he hasn't shared with any other teacher. It's a really special bond that he's formed. And so he really wants to work hard for this teacher. He wants to, prove he can do it. And so he's definitely made so much progress in so many areas of his life since we started this journey. And so it's been just wonderful. And Roosevelt has been kind of that model school for the district, and showing how this model works and how when you bring outside people in like ABA therapists, and how you can work together, as a collaboration. And it's been amazing the gains that we have seen. Of course, he's definitely not on level, but as far as, his progress goes, he has just made phenomenal progress. And so fast forward to now, there was a new principal, Miss Wheatley, that came in probably about 2 years ago. And again, I was very nervous at that time with a new principal coming in. The first principal, like I said, definitely being the one to pave the way for this to happen, to allow ABA into the school and to allow these supports and to support this growth for our kids. And so when she left, I was definitely nervous that something was going to change. And thankfully, when the new principal came in, she let us know that she was going to continue to allow ABA. And so now fast forward, we're getting to the end of second grade. And I was picking him up last week. And so I happened to be in the office, picking him up for a neurologist appointment, and ran into Miss Wheatley, the principal, and she very nonchalantly kind of called me into her office and said, "Hey, can you step into my office really quick?" And so I did. And she said, "Could you, hey, we just want to set up a quick meeting. I'm setting up a meeting with all the moms who have ABA over the next week. And I just want to set up a quick meeting to see if we can talk about next year with services." So I said, absolutely, assuming, of course, that we're going to be talking about, yes, I want to keep the same therapist, these are the same hours, and just kind of getting that so that the office has all the documentation, the kind of normal standard stuff. So I didn't really think much of it. She said, how about Wednesday, 8 a.m.? No problem. And then she said on the way out, she said, "Hey, yeah, his teacher will be there." So I said, great. So once I had that meeting set, all of a sudden I kind of start hearing all this chatter. And again, I'm close with a lot of these moms. There's other kids in the school who have ABA. There's lots of ESE students. And so I've, got really close with these moms, and we're good friends. So we keep in contact, and kind of started to hear this chitter chatter about these meetings that were coming up, and that it was definitely seeming like out of the ordinary, and that like this could be more than just a regular meeting. So I did think it was a little odd that she set the meeting for 8 a.m. if she was expecting the teacher to be there, as he would clearly be teaching at 8 a.m. So my husband, who is a current school teacher, he teaches fourth grade in Hillsborough County. Couldn't obviously make an 8 a.m. meeting either. So I just rescheduled it for 2:30 p.m. And so we had that meeting yesterday. Again, not really knowing much about what this was, what this was going to be about. So it was getting closer to the time. So I said, let me just send an email just to confirm. So I sent an email to Miss Wheatley and I just said, hi, just confirming the 2:30 meeting for today. Could you let me know who's going to be present at the meeting and if his teacher will be there? And that was it. So I received an email a couple hours before the meeting started, and she said, yes, 2:30 will be fine. His teacher will be there, and it will also be, Ms. Wheatley, the principal, the assistant principal, and the ESC teacher. So I was kind of taken aback by that. It was a lot of people. It definitely didn't seem like that was a normal meeting, and I definitely wasn't warned in advance with all those people, and only because I asked, was that disclosed. So she said, yeah, this is about ABA, so if you want to bring them with you, go ahead. Obviously, a couple hours before the meeting, that's not enough time to schedule with anybody to just show up to a meeting at school. So I think she was well aware of that. So that didn't happen. The ABA obviously couldn't make it. So my husband and I went to the school for this meeting. So we sat around the conference table, and Miss Wheatley kind of got the meeting started and said, so I'm calling this meeting because I want to talk about next year and Grayson's ABA services. So she said, basically kind of putting it on me, I know that you would want what's best for Grayson. I know that, that you would want him to be independent. I know that you would want him to be successful. And we believe that by, cutting back ABA, ultimately removing ABA services from the campus, would be what's best for Grayson. So obviously, definitely taken aback that this was happening. So of course we are expressed that we're against that. That doesn't make any sense. And I informed her that actually that neurologist meeting that I just went to, that appointment the week before, they just added ADHD to his label. So he now, has autism as well as ADHD, this new label. And so removing services definitely didn't seem like something that was going to be benefiting him. And this just came very much like out of the blue. Like, I don't know where this was coming from. So she proceeded to explain, that she wants to remove ABA. And so it would be done slowly. We didn't really, agree on how fast of a pace this was going to happen, but ultimately they would be removed from the campus, and that she felt that she needed to be responsible for my son's education and not an outside source, which clearly she is responsible. He's going to a public school. It is her school. He's attending, a regular gen ed class, taking all the same tests, so this is her school. His education is of course under her, and ABA is there just to guide and kind of make sure he's on task. So she explained that she would like to remove the services, and that she preferred that there were no more outside services coming into school. That if we needed, she wanted no outsiders basically coming into the school, and that if there were needs that needed to be met, that the district would be able to meet that. Obviously, my husband being a teacher, just really listening to the news and being a mom at a public school, I am well aware that there are teacher shortages in the state of Florida, that there are a lot of open positions, that especially ESC, especially paras, one-on-ones, it's just, jobs that are not being filled at the moment. So she basically recommended that we want to remove ABA and that we would put in place in his IEP that we would request one-on-one pairs basically for the kids who were receiving ABA services. So I'm going to say a minimum that's at least 5 kids in the school that she would be requesting one-on-one pairs for. I know, again, from my husband being a teacher, that is not possible, not likely, just absolutely not going to happen. They certainly can put it in his IEP that it would be required, but if that position is not not filled, they would not be required to meet that because the person is not there to actually do the job. So ultimately, that would mean my son is left 5 days without any one-on-one, and I know exactly what that would look like because I'm his mom. Again, he would be sweet. There would be no behavior interruptions. He'd get along with everybody, but his grades, all the progress that we've made would just plummet to nothing if I were to do that. In the same breath, she was also telling us that his new FAST testing scores, which is the new test in Hillsborough County, he scored in the second percentile, which is obviously low. So again, we pointed out that if his scores were that low, why would we be removing services? That just doesn't make any sense. And so my husband, he knows how, what questions to ask, being that he's in the school system. And so he said to her, if this is something that you have discussed and that you're thinking about, could you please provide me the data that shows that ABA would not be needed, as we obviously feel strongly that ABA is needed with the one-on-one support. And meeting definitely took a turn, and she kind of snapped back and she said, I owe you nothing. I do not have to produce any data, and I owe you nothing. So we continued, and basically I said to her, look, I know what's been happening this whole school year, and I didn't want to bring it up because I was very afraid that I was going to be blacklisted. That basically if I brought this information to administration, that, suddenly when I go at the end of the year, like right now, and I go request like, hey, can Grayson please keep, this core group of friends with him? And can they please move up again? And can they move to, this teacher? And I know that if I then start asking for those favors after complaining, that those things might not happen. So it wasn't worth me, kind of bringing that up. I really need Grayson to have that core support and love around him. And so I did inform them at the meeting that I'm well aware that he is not being provided the services that are required on the IEP, which I know is against the law. He is supposed to be getting ESE services from Miss James for daily, twice a day. And that hasn't been happening. So that hasn't been happening really the whole school year. It's been very inconsistent, kind of all over the place. And so again, I didn't want to bring any attention to this because I knew that I had Miss M, his ABA therapist, with him, and that he was getting services through her, and that he was in a happy, safe environment with this wonderful teacher in second grade. And again, that's what's really important to me, is his happiness and his overall well-being. I also explained to them that it was a difficult day for me when I had to swallow when my son came home, who again is starting to get better with his communication. He has speech delays. But he came home to me and he said, Mom, I don't like Miss James. And I've never heard him say that about any human being, really, ever. He doesn't know how to not like somebody. He is just full of joy. He only sees the good in people. He just loves everybody. He gets along with everybody. Sometimes, maybe his sister or his cousin might say something mean and he doesn't know. It just kind of goes over his head. He just doesn't pay attention to that. So he really sees the good. And he's just a good guy who just loves. And so he doesn't know to not like somebody. So for him to say that to me was major for him to come tell me that information. And again, not feeling safe that I could share that information with administration for sure. And so I said, what happened? And so he just said, she's mean to me. He's never said that about anyone ever in the 8 years that he has been on this planet. So I knew that it was something serious. But again, I knew it was, 20, maybe 30 minutes every now and then, because he definitely wasn't getting what he was supposed to be getting. So I didn't want to push it any further. I don't want to remove him from a safe space and then put him in a place where he is filled with anxiety and he's really scared of this person. So definitely didn't push it anymore. And I did let the teacher know that we're not going to push this. Let's just, kind of leave it as is. And so kind of fast forward to that meeting. So I let them know that I do know that she is not treating my son well. And I do know that by law, you were supposed to be following the IEP, and it's not. And I was very shocked at Miss Wheatley's response. She immediately got defensive. She started screaming at my husband and I. She told me, she screamed at me that I needed to call the district. She started yelling at me and telling me that I needed to prove it. I needed to show proof, that I would not have any proof. How would I know that? And basically coming up with all these excuses from testing and whatnot. There's all the reasons why she would not, have been able to service the IEP, which again is really not important. You have to follow the IEP. It's a legal document. And so she just started screaming at me, and it was really unprofessional. I've never been spoken to that way from, especially from a principal. And to be screamed at your child's school, in front of the AP, in front of his teacher, in front of the ESC teacher, to be treated that way was really uncomfortable, to say the least. And so she went on to say that this was her school, and this is her way, and that the decision has already been made, even though I had said that it, obviously I didn't agree with it. And she had got upset. She tried to kind of table the meeting several times. And she just said, look, this is what we want to try. What we would like to try with Grayson is to, basically eliminate these services and then see how he does. And I explained very much that I don't want my child to be an experiment, that sounds like an experiment that I'm not willing to do, because I know exactly how that's going to go. She again started yelling at me. She said that I had hurt her feelings, that she takes offense to that she would never experiment. And I said, well, you just said that you would like to take all of his services away and see what happens. It sounds like an experiment, and one that I'm not on board for. I explained that I did think the meeting was unfair, that ABA needed to be there, that they deserved to be able to obviously speak to all the wonderful things that they do. I explained that if she needed the data to prove it, that you can go in on a Tuesday and a Thursday when he is by himself and you can see the data for yourself. His teacher reiterated that. And so we have the data. I said all ABA is data. So I have data from the age of 3 on things that you would never know that somebody was taking data on. So I have data in every form that you want, from the age of 3 through yesterday. And she said, no, that data is not, good enough, that she wants her own data, not from an outsider. And it was very clear that she suddenly didn't want outside people on campus. And so obviously something has happened. And so I said, yeah, I think that the next meeting, the IEP team should be there. And so she again kind of raised her voice at us and said, the IEP team did not need to be there because they don't make the decisions on ABA. She does, and it's her school, and she's already made the decision. And so I said, obviously, I'm well aware that the IEP team would not be the one to be making that decision. However, these are also people who are wonderful. This is his village. They are his support. They are his people. And so, their opinions really matter to me. And any kind of decision like this should be made as a team, as a group. As I say, Team Grayson. And so if Team Grayson's not there, I'm really not comfortable. And so the meeting definitely ended kind of very abruptly. She didn't like where things were going. She said that she was going to be calling in, the ESE supervisor, and that we need to table this meeting and to basically come back and discuss this at a later time. And that's kind of where it left off. So, she said, "Thank you very much for coming." So it was clear that the meeting was over and that we were being dismissed. So my husband and I kind of very rattled and kind of struck, like what just happened. So we walked out of the meeting. And that's kind of where we are right now. So I just wanted to kind of get this all out. Like I said, I wanted to write this down, but it's just been so much that I thought a video would just be kind of easier to just get through it. Obviously, super stressed. I can't get this like pit feeling out of my stomach. But I'm here to advocate for my son. It's unfortunate that, something clearly happened, and the first people that Miss Wheatley decided to attack was to go after all the special needs kids in the school, who can't self-advocate for themselves. It's just a really, low blow. It's really sad. It's really sad that that's, who you would go after. And so that's where we are. But I'm going to keep, fighting and keep doing what's best for my son, and keep advocating for him. But definitely taking away these ABA services that have been allowed to be in place, for several years, that have proven how wonderful he's doing, and the progress that he's made. And there's, like I said, there's other moms that are going through the same thing, that she's going to kind of start going through these meetings. And we all just have wonderful things to say about ABA. And it's worked for so long. Like I said, Roosevelt has definitely been the model of the neighborhood school, how to follow and to allow, these services inside the school and how it works. And suddenly she wants them gone. So thank you for listening. And that's kind of where we are now.